And as we are fighting hard to get birthright citizenship or automatic citizenship for the children of illegal aliens, that's another meant, if you look, it was really meant for children of slaves. This is when it happened, the children of slaves. It was not meant for everyone to come into our country by airplane, across the borders from all over the world and think they're going to become citizens. It's not meant for that. It wasn't meant for that. And
come on now. What they did, they ran a Jedi mind trick with us. Because you know what they did with African American? They rebranded Foundational Black Americans as goddamn immigrants when they did that. They effectively rebranded us as immigrants, equal to an Italian American or an Irish American or a Mexican American. That was a horrible thing. They was a Jedi mind trick they ran on us with that. That's why we reject that term full-fledged, because it erases our distinct lineage. Foundational Black Americans, we are descendants of freedmen. We've been here from before the beginning of this country. We've been here. We're the only group that has the longest continuous bloodline on this land. You understand? There's been Black people on this land from day one. And when you do that African American thing, that lumps Black immigrants in from Africa and the Caribbean, people who came over voluntarily, people who immigrated to something better. And that comes in and that kind of dilutes our historic trauma and contributions as foundational Black Americans, and it creates policy confusion. And we're saying no. And that opens the door for these non-FBA immigrants to claim benefits meant for foundational Black Americans by using African American broadly, like institutions, colleges, foundations, media. They start awarding scholarships, grants, diversity positions to Black immigrants and their children. That's why in a lot of these Ivy League schools, African American, quote unquote, the student population is dominated by Ghanaians, Nigerians, Jamaicans, all of these other people. We do a Juneteenth program. All of a sudden, everybody has the runners-ups and the winners have African last names or Latin last names. So yeah, they want us to be on some old sleep-ass African-American vibe because everybody can leech off of it. That's a leech term. Yeah? They can use that to co-opt all of the movements we get popping. Civil rights, hip-hop, all of these protest movements, they start to get co-opted by these non-FBAs. We get
Here's your girl.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right, right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now.
Okay, so listen, we got to stop letting them run with this liberal lie. Ain't none of us willing to go farm right now. How do you know? Did you do a poll? because the first thing we want to know is how much, how much you willing to pay us. First of all, you already got black farmers out there farming. You dig? So we already got people farming. So how come they ain't linking up with them to get some farming done? All right. And what's going on those farms? I'm gonna show you what's going on those farms. I'm gonna show you. I think I already showed a post in the community on my channel. But how do you know we don't want to farm? I mean, how much are you paying? If you're paying 25, 30, 45, $50 an hour, and maybe even 18, you dig? People will go farm. Now, if you're paying $4 an hour, yeah, nobody going out there. So let's kill that narrative that nobody wants to farm. Okay. And let's also kill the narrative that that's all illegal immigrants do is farm. Because I got some evidence to the contrary. Just keep watching.
Okay,
exactly,
so I'm
Tony.
lying. Raise your hands.
Now watch this.
You're not.
Okay,
You're not.
so she's gonna ask folks that came to see her, probably got a skill in office work, or of course they're not gonna go farm. But again, like you're not asking the masses. You didn't do a poll. You ain't doing a liberal poll. You're just running your mouth to select the group that is going to agree with anything you say. Yeah, the people listening might not, but won't you do a poll? And won't you give a dollar amount? Won't you give a salary to how much these folks, if you want to pay Americans, Black Americans to farm? There has to be a living wage, obviously. We got to live somewhere.
We done picking cotton.
Now, look at that extreme she went to. She compared illegals farming, whatever. I don't even know what they do on a farm. I'm guessing grow crops, some bullshit. Why did she compare picking cotton to farming? Like the extreme is just unbelievable. But this is what they do, man. Listen.
We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
Now she said a plantation. Like what happened just to a farm? So again, you got to be deceptive and disingenuous to prove your point. Why don't you just do a poll? And again, with the poll, list an hourly wage or a salary, a living, right, salary, and you'll be surprised how many FBAs will be like, "Yeah, I'll take that job." So I showed this right here. So she claims that these illegal immigrants are doing the hard farming work that we don't want to do. Okay, well, according to this post right here, it says ICE raid at King's Mountain Factory stemmed for identity theft investigation. So this is a factory. This ain't a farm. Okay, so what happened to the farms that that we don't want to work? This is not a farm. This is a factory. Come back, Yogi. Come back over here. All right, so y'all can see it for yourself. This is a factory that was raided by ICE. It wasn't a farm being raided by ICE. What up, Pinky? So y'all just can miss me with all this projection. So Pinky said, I just listened to a video of an American man who said that in his area, the illegals are gone, and he sees a lot of American men doing that work they were doing, roofing, landscaping. So exactly, I seen that same video. So this chick, but look, what I'm going to do right now is debunk the myth that the illegals only work they do is farming. Okay, so I already showed one post of a factory being raided by illegals working there. Look at this. And that's not a farm, that factory. Let's see if this is a farm being raided. Matter of fact, did you ever see a farm being raided? If that's where all the illegals at, then wouldn't that be the first place Donald Trump send the ICE agents? I believe they're everywhere but a farm.
Obama has said that he favors allowing illegal immigrants to obtain driver's licenses.
Okay, so your boy Barack Obama favors illegal obtaining driver license, but look who is opposed to that. You'll be very, very shocked. Listen and look.
And you opposed that idea.
Hillary Clinton.
well, let me start with the original question from Kim, because I think it deserves an answer. I believe that
she's going to say everything that we are saying. She's going to say everything Trump is saying. Watch this.
in many parts of our country, because of employers who exploit undocumented workers and drive down wages.
You hear that? The jobs that we would like to be employed at, right, are soliciting undocumented workers to drive down wages, right? So if a job was going to pay $20 an hour, it was going to pay you 20 to 25 bucks an hour, was willing to pay this undocumented immigrant maybe $9 an hour. You dig? So that it can get pretty much 2-3 people to do the work you were going to do as an individual, as a singular person, for the same rate.
There are job losses, and I think we should be honest about that.
Exactly. So there are job losses with these undocumented people. And like Hillary said, we should be honest about that.
There are people who have been pushed out of jobs in factories and meat processing plants and all kinds of settings.
Hey, you hear that? Meat processing plant. And that one just got rated, by the way. That was on the screen. It was a meat processing plant. So everything she was saying, she like, when was this? 2008? No, this was like 2004 or 8, one of them. Maybe 2008, I think. And where we at now? This is like a 17-year prophecy or prediction.
And I meet them. You know, I was in Atlanta last night, and
listen, Pinky,
an African-American man said to me, I used to have a lot of construction jobs, and now it just seems like the only people who get them anymore are people who are here without documentation.
You hear that? So she just said, it seems like the only people who are able to get construction jobs are people here without proper documentation.
So I know that what we have to do is to bring our country together to have a comprehensive immigration reform solution.
Right.
That is the answer. And it is important that we make clear to Kim and people who are worried about this that that is actually in the best interests of those who are concerned about losing their jobs or already have.
Right.
Has learned ICE agents detained some 1,600 illegal migrants on Tuesday. In Omaha, immigration enforcement agents targeted dozens of suspected undocumented workers at a large meatpacking facility.
Hey, didn't she just say that? This is by the way, what I'm showing you is 2025. I believe when Hillary was talking, that might have been 2008. Okay, I'm just guessing. I think that was 2000. I could find out for sure, but I believe that was like 2008. It might have been even earlier. So this is 17 years. She said that Americans would start losing employment in meat factories to undocumented immigrants. And as you see, a meat company is being raided in Omaha, Nebraska, by ICE agents because it's filled with illegal undocumented immigrants. So everything she said was spot on. Donnie, move out the way. Everything she just said was spot on.
CBS's Ian Lee is there tonight with the latest on those arrests.
Look at this, a construction company. So now we just seen the last video. That wasn't a farm, Jasmine Crockett. And look at this right here. This is a construction site. This ain't a farm either. So where are these farms that Jasmine Crockett is saying all these undocumented illegal aliens are working on? How come they not getting raided? That should be their main thing. Like, hey, why aren't you raiding the farms? Look at this. So Pinky said, out here construction sites, you see a couple of white men supervising and the workers non-white or American, right?
Agents are now searching for dozens of illegal immigrants who bolted from the scene of a raid in Wildwood yesterday. 33 others were arrested at construction sites.
Part of Florida's crack.
So this is another construction site. So what happened to these farms? What happened to these mystery farms that Jasmine Crockett says so many illegal undocumented folks are working on that we don't want to do? It looks like they're doing the work that we do want to do, like work at a meat factory and work at a construction site.
crackdown on illegal immigration.
ICE conducts the largest immigration raid in state history. What's this about?
Tonight, President Trump's immigration crackdown ramping up, with sweeping raids across the state of Florida.
Construction workers were working on
construction workers.
This building behind.
So again, we see that these illegal, undocumented immigrants, they're not on a farm doing the hard work that Americans don't want to do. We see them working at career employments that bring about careers, construction work. Where are the farms?
When law enforcement came from all directions, descending on them.
What Nelly said, what you think I live on a farm? Shit, the immigrants the illegal ones are saying, what you think I work on a farm? Nigga, be for real. I'm over here in a construction site.
When he upgraded his entire camera system, Mehmet Adobian says it was only for quality assurance at his car wash.
Oh, at a car wash, not a farm, right? Okay, so we're not at the farm. Now, Americans would love to work at a car wash if the only option is unemployment, like you see it is right now for a lot of Americans. The jobs are not like there. The jobs are not as accessible as it once was. American jobs.
He says he never expected it would capture.
Oh yeah, look at my shirt, Pinky. Yeah, you'll see them in soul food restaurants.
This.
All our guys here, they're driving with the cars after him. And all our guys is.
It's a car wash. That's not a farm.
2 back-to-back ICE raids at his business. One on Sunday, then again on Monday, Mehmet says, where 7 of his 25 employees were taken by Border Patrol and ICE agents, even though.
Dang, $20,000 an hour.
ICE continues to carry out raids across Southern California, even in the middle of the controversy and chaos. New video shows dozens of car wash workers being detained by
another car wash. This ain't a farm. Look at my man. He out here with a Lamborghini with these damn illegals.
Federal agents, including at least one customer. So far.
Look at this. Is this a farm? So this is another car wash. So Jasmine Crockett, you got to update your lies. They're not at a farm. There's no farms being raided. They're raiding car washes. They're raiding meat factories, manufacturing facilities, and they're raiding construction sites. Not a farm yet.
County car wash owner is speaking out after ICE agents raided her business.
Surveillance video shows as agents arrived and chased an employee.
Eyewitness News reporter Leo Starworth live in Downey with the details. Leo.
Okay.
Yeah, the owner of this car wash over my shoulder.
Oh, so another car wash. Damn, how many car washes? 3, 4, 5? But we don't see a farm.
Here she.
And as we are fighting hard to get birthright citizenship or automatic citizenship for the children of illegal aliens. That's another way. It's automatic citizenship for children of illegal aliens. That's the other term that they use, which is actually more accurate, more understandable. And it's ridiculous. We're the only country that has it, and certainly the only country that has it to that extent. And it wasn't meant, if you look, it was really meant for children of slaves. This is when it happened. The children of slaves. It was not meant for everyone to come into our country by airplane or charging across the borders from all over the world and think they're going to become citizens. It's not meant for that. It wasn't meant for that. And hopefully at some point the courts will understand that without having to go through a whole big deal. This was meant for the children of slaves. And look at the timing of it and you'll see. And I hope judges will understand.
I think he makes a whole lot of sense. When you look at the context of the 14th Amendment, illegal immigrants were the
promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. but this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she can talk as long as she wants, because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme.
There you go. Like Jay-Z said, what more can you say? All right, so let's go here now.
I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. But the problem is our communities are divided. For Asian Americans and for African Americans, we probably have one of the worst relationships between any community.
Well, I bet you a lot of Asian Americans too don't, in my experience, don't even realize that if it wasn't for the civil rights movement, there would not be 22 million Asian Americans in this country.
Thank you. What I have been trying to teach the Asian community is like, friends, do you understand that your success, your prosperity, your civil rights that you enjoy right now was paid for with black blood? So as you...
Okay, so we got the Asian community stepping up, where we expect the non-FBA black community to step up at, which is crazy because they're supposed to be black like us, but they go against the grain. They go against what we have contributed to in this country, what we founded in this country. But you see other ethnicities giving it up. But that's why when they say all skin folk and kinfolk, we're seeing it. Look how easy it was for these men from the Asian community to give us our flowers. And then let's keep going. Let's talk about birthright citizenship.
And if you just were to take kind of an idiot's view of it, it looks like maybe it does provide for so-called birthright citizenship. It says, all persons born or naturalized, but let's focus on born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Isn't that birthright citizenship, Andrew? It says right there, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Well, it does say that, but it doesn't just say that, and that's the problem. There's two conditions that have to be met, and they're separate conditions. Born in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And jurisdiction thereof in this context means more than, for example, the criminal jurisdiction. Because this is not an amendment dealing with criminal law. This is an amendment dealing with political law, with citizenship. And if you just were to take kind of an idiot's view of it, it looks like maybe it does provide for
my fault. Let me play the whole thing. My fault.
Called birthright. Isn't that birthright citizenship, Andrew? It says right there, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Well, it does say that, but it doesn't just say that, and that's the problem. There's two conditions that have to be met, and they're separate conditions. Born in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And jurisdiction thereof in this context means more than, for example, the criminal jurisdiction. Because this is not an amendment dealing with criminal law. This is an amendment dealing with political law, with citizenship. Obviously, everyone physically present in the U.S., whether you're a tourist or an invader or an American Native Indian or here on a work permit or an American citizen, if you're physically present within the borders of the U.S., of course you're subject to our criminal jurisdiction.
Right.
But this means more than that. It has to be mean more than that, or we wouldn't need that phrase subject to the jurisdiction at all.
Interesting.
Because you're automatically subject to criminal jurisdiction, for example, simply by being physically present. If you're born here, you're physically present.
Yep.
So, of course, by default, you're subject to the criminal jurisdiction. The only reason to include subject to the jurisdiction thereof as a separate clause from being physically present, from being born here, is that it means something different than merely being physically present. And in fact, it does mean something different. It means subject not merely to criminal jurisdiction, but to the political jurisdiction of the U.S., and more importantly, exclusive to the political jurisdiction of the U.S.
He's cooking.
And how do we know this? Because the men who wrote and debated and ratified the 14th Amendment explicitly told us that's what it meant. I'm going to show you a bunch of quotes here, and you'll see the font is kind of weird. This is actually imagery from the contemporaneous congressional record. When this question of the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause was being debated. And I don't want to go through the whole document. It would take too long. I'm just going to ask you to trust me that, first of all, what I'm showing you is the argument among the senators. I don't identify a senator with every quote here. And also, take it on my word that there was no opposing argument. There was 100% consensus among every one of these senators debating and ratifying the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause that this is what it meant. As examples, this senator, I do not presume that anyone will pretend to disguise the fact that the object of this citizenship section is simply to declare that freed black slaves shall be citizens of the United States. Not invaders, not illegal migrants, not people unlawfully present within the U.S. The purpose of the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause is exclusively to ensure that freed black slaves who would otherwise be stateless were recognized as American citizens in the aftermath of the Civil War, which of course is when the 14th Amendment was ratified. Another senator here. This will not, of course, the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause, include persons born in the U.S. who are foreigners, aliens who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States. Does not include people born in the U.S. who are foreigners. Now, you may be thinking, well, how are you a foreigner if you're born in the U.S.? Obviously, the contemporaneous senators believed you could be born in the U.S. and still be a foreigner. How would that happen? It happens because by default, you inherit the nationality of your parents. And if your parents are foreign nationals, you are a foreign national. You're born in the U.S., but you are a foreigner. A foreigner. Another senator. Indians, talking about Native American Indians, born within the limits of the United States. So they're born within the U.S., but who maintain tribal relations, so their political jurisdiction is not exclusive to the United States federal government. It's split, at least split, with their tribe, are not, in the sense of this 14th Amendment, born subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. If you have divided political loyalty, you maintain allegiance to a foreign government, a foreign nation. When your children are born in the U.S., they are not American citizens. They do not qualify under the 14th Amendment. By the way, Native Americans born in the U.S. today do qualify as American citizens, not under the 14th Amendment, but because in 1925, Congress passed a statute that specifically provided for citizenship for Native Americans born in the U.S. But the 14th Amendment doesn't do that, and there is no similar statute for illegal migrant third world invaders. Another senator. The provision is that, quote, all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens, close quote. That means subject to the complete jurisdiction thereof. What do we mean by subject to the jurisdiction of the United States? Not owing allegiance to anybody else. That is what it means. And of course, what they're talking about is the allegiance of the parents who give birth to this child born on American soil. Same senator. It cannot be said of any Native American Indian who owes allegiance, partial allegiance, if you please. I might have forgotten to click a couple of those. Sorry, I was quoting them. partial allegiance, if you please, to some other government that he is subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So a partial allegiance is not enough. It is only those persons who come completely within our jurisdiction, meaning political jurisdiction, who are subject to our laws
Hey,
that
man,
make that
borrow
we think
this
of
video.
as making
He's
citizens.
cooking.
Another one. I've already replied to the suggestion as to the Native American Indians being subject to our jurisdiction in the context of the 14th Amendment.
The link
They
in
are
the
not
chat.
subject to our jurisdiction in the sense of owing allegiance solely to the United States.
He is cooking.
Now, all this amendment provides is that all persons born in the United States and not subject to some foreign power, for that, no doubt, is the meaning of the committee who brought the matter before us, shall be considered as citizens of the United
cooking,
States.
Man.
Another senator. I concur entirely with the honorable senator from Illinois in holding that the word jurisdiction, as here employed, ought to be construed so as to imply a full and complete jurisdiction on the part of the United States. Certainly, gentlemen cannot contend that a Native American Indian belonging to a tribe, although born within the limits of a state, is subject to the full and complete jurisdiction. That question has long been adjudicated so far as the usage of the government is involved. Another, I understand the words here, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, to mean fully and completely subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. In other words, the parent of the child has no divided loyalties. They are an American citizen. They are not a citizen of a foreign nation. And you might remember this comment says, oh, check out Wong Kim Ark. All right, Wong Kim Ark was a U.S. Supreme Court decision from 1898. It involved a Chinese national. His parents lived in the United States. He was born in the United States. The family took a trip back to China. And on their return to the U.S., his parents were allowed back into the U.S., but he was not.
Wow.
His parents had permanent resident status in the U.S. They were permanently domiciled in the U.S. But he didn't have that status, Wong Kim Ark, the child. And the border officers said, well, your parents have a right to come in. They're permanent resident aliens. But you don't have that status, so you can't come in. And so he argued that I should be recognized as an American citizen. And the Supreme Court in Wong Kim Ark said, yes, you should be recognized as an American citizen.
Check this out.
But the specific reasoning is important here. Whether the legal question before this court, Supreme Court case, whether a child born in the United States of parents who at the time of his birth were foreign nationals, but have a permanent domicile and residence in the United States, meaning they're making their life in the U.S. permanently, so they've made a permanent physical commitment to the U.S., and they are there lawfully. The U.S. government has a reciprocal acceptance of their presence. Children born to permanent resident aliens in the United States should be deemed American citizens. But this doesn't apply to illegal migrant third world invaders. It doesn't apply to people who are unlawfully in the U.S., to people who America has not accepted as permanent resident aliens in our nation. It doesn't apply to people who illegally cross the border. It doesn't apply to people who overstay their work visa, their student visa, their tourist visa. It doesn't apply to people who are in the process of applying for asylum status and then get their asylum request denied and no longer have lawful status. It doesn't apply to people who may have been let in, like the Haitians were let in because they turned their nation into a hellhole, and now that status is overturned and they're no longer lawfully in the U.S. And they were never intended, importantly, all these people on temporary visas, work, student, tourist, or on temporary asylum claims, none of them are permanently accepted as residents of the U.S. None of them are in the position of the parents of Wong Kim Ark. And so none of their children are in the position.
That's right.
Of Wong Kim Ark. So Wong Kim Ark is completely irrelevant as Supreme Court precedent for the illegal migrant third world invaders' children who happen to be born on American soil. By the way, I would argue Juan K. Mark is bad law. Just 2 years before this decision, the same panel of Supreme Court justices issued the infamous Dred Scott decision that said blacks born in America were not American citizens. That was later overturned by the Supreme Court. So Supreme Courts, especially this one, makes bad decisions that have to be overturned.
Yeah, facts.
I would suggest that this was a decision that was expedient at the time when we had lots of Chinese immigrants in America and we were struggling with how to deal with them and their children, but it's not supported by the actual text of the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment doesn't say that permanent resident aliens get some kind of exception. That's not in the 14th Amendment. So I think this is bad law. But even if you disagree and wish this to be good law, it still does not apply to illegal migrant third world invaders and their children. Thanks for watching this highlight segment of our full-length Law of Self-Defense live stream. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to give us a like and subscribe for more expert analysis on politics, law, and how to be hard to convict. And to watch the full-length episode of this show, just click right here. Stay safe.
That's right. Okay, I got a guest right here listening to me. Okay, I'll try it. Okay, I won't do that. I will be very careful. Okay, like this, and just dance like this. Ah. All right, I would do it. Oh yeah, I'm coming right over. You hear that, chat? I got a 4-year-old neighbor. She wants me to join in the festivities. 4th of July. You dig? We're Americans, so we gotta join the